Hey guys, it's your pontiff, ArchieLuxury. And today, guys, the topic is, I want to talk about the perfect 5-piece watch collection for happiness. And this is a video that really has taken me over 20 years to make. You can't make, before we start, quick wristwatch check. What am I wearing? I'm wearing a Z Blue, a Milgauss Z Blue. Okay, guys, this video has taken me over 20 years to make. And you can't just make this video after you've been in the industry for 5 minutes. You have to have had multiple collections, multiple sell-offs, multiple everything, and it's not something anybody under 45 could make. They don't have the breadth. Now, I tell you now, I've had a number of collections of watches. I just yearn for more. You've got to be a collector. You've got to want the watches. And I got to tell you guys, it's the lusting and the craving that drives this hobby. So, what have I discovered? Okay. A few perimeters. Number one is that less is more. I got a good friend of mine who's got 50, or maybe more than 50 expensive high-end watches. I personally don't think that's the answer. Well, let me say this. It's not the answer for me, and I don't recommend it. If you've got the money, by all means, but I see he makes silly mistakes that I can't forgive. Okay? I can't forgive some of the mistakes. And he's very flippant. When I question him and say, hey, why did you sell that? That was a mistake. He says, well, I'm not made of money. But in the next moment, he'll just buy boom, 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 and say, oh, that's how I run. Well, that's a bit of an oxymoron, because when I look at your collection, you've sold things off very cheaply. For example, he recently sold off a Gen 2 Vacheron Overseas 3-hander. He sold that very low. He got it cheap. He sold it basically at the same price. And he bought a Vacheron Gen 3 chronograph. Expensive. And I'm kind of thinking, I would have kept the Gen 2 and I would have had more money. But I would have had more money to buy something else. But, you know, it's his money. You can't tell another man what to do with his money. But generally speaking, I think less is more. When you have so many, in his case, when he had so many Daytonas at one stage, he was buying dial variations. Oh, I want an APH version of this. I want a blue loom. I'm thinking, this is getting crazy. Absolutely. I said to him, this is getting crazy, because so little variations. It's like somebody who collects Ferraris. They might collect a modern genre. And then they say, oh, I want a 360. I want a 360 Scadali. I want a 360 Challenge. I want the 458, 488. I want the 355. You think, man, this is just getting too ridiculous. The other thing is, I would say, so that's rule one, is less is more. Number two, rules are sometimes meant to be broken. Okay, and what I mean by that is, well, at one point in my collecting phase there, I went into one watch per brand. Okay, now the big problem is a brand like Rolex has so many iconic models. They got the Submariner, they got the GMT, they got the Explorers, Milgauss, they got so many watches that are iconic. The Daytona, so many watches are iconic. So if you have a rule that says, I only buy one watch per brand, which it's a double-edged sword, because on one side it makes you really think about what you buy to represent that brand, but on the other side, there's something like Rolex. You look at iconic watches. So one watch per brand, you could say, well, okay, the Submariner. Submariner is iconic. And then what's the iconic GMT? Well, it's actually the Rolex GMT. And then I would say for GMT function would probably be the Explorer 2. These are iconic pieces. And then I would say iconic everyday watches, Datejust would have to strike a balance. And the date, well, I mean, the date's no slouch. And that is the problem. Sometimes you have rules and you've got to break them. You've got to break them. So, okay, with that all said and done, I've had collections, I've had one watch for a long time. So I got my Rolex in 1990, Explorer 1, 1016, and I had a quartz Seamaster. Now, when I say it was a quartz Seamaster, it's not the diving sea, it was just a dress watch Seamaster. I got it from Wally Bishop for $195. They had a run out. This was in the 80s. I actually gave it to my dad because I thought, what would you need more than one watch for? I got my Rolex, but I'm never going to wear the Omega. And I didn't even think about collecting. And then mid-90s, I got back into the hobby. I suddenly found someone who sold second hand. And I thought, wow, this could allow you to buy and add to your collection. So that really kind of took off for me. And I got to be honest with you, you've got to look at it. You've got to look at it this way. I remember periods in my life, the Archie 5, that was iconic ArchieLuxury watch collection, 5 watches, 2 Pateks. I had the annual calendar, the annual calendar, the Calatrava 5107. I had a Breguet Type 20. I had the Reverso Grand Date, which I still have, and I had an AP Royal Oak 14790 ST. 5-piece combo deal. That was my Archie 5. And then in the late 90s, I was a Rolex nut. I was a Rolex collector, 1998, 1999. I remember I had a Rolex 36 mil. That was the only size they did the day date in. Well, they actually did the mid-size and the large 36. That was the large. Day date, 36 with diamond dial, Explorer 2, sub date 16610, 16013 two-tone Datejust R serial number, and a 16800 sub as a beater. 5 Rolex. I remember that. I loved them. I didn't like chronographs. And the Daytona was expensive too. I will put that footnote there too. 5 Rolex. And people would say, oh, what do you want 5 for? People actually look down on Rolex. I never really listened to people. I always liked what I liked, and that was it. So I was ahead of the curve. And I used to go, the Rolex Forum I thought was a bit dicky, but I used to go to Turfers, the ultimate Rolex Forum, which was rebranded New Turfers. I got banned multiple times on New Turfers. That was a Singaporean, K's from Singapore set up New Turfers. And I got to tell you, so that was K's. He was new turfers. I was Rolex, man. Rolex. And I think I had a couple things happen to me. I had to sell it off because I needed the money. Went down to nothing. I had a boy-sized Tudor. Then, as soon as I got money again, actually, I went into Cartier. I had a Torno 18 carat. Then I got a Patek 3919. Then I went back into Rolex. I got a Datejust 16220. It's the steel engine turned version. And I got a sub no date. Sub no date. I loved the sub no date 14060. I had a number of those. Oh, and before that, I'd bought and sold vintage, but I'd never valued it, which was stupidity. Then what happens? I had a number of collections. Again, financial stupidity. And I started again and again and again and again. And it's when you start, the wheels start turning in your head. What's the perfect number of watches to have? What size is it? And that's where I am now. The cogs are turning. The cogs are turning. And what I think the number is, honestly, the number is, I've had double digits in the teens. I had 5. I also had a really good time when I had 3 watches. I remember this. I read this article which said, I kind of had already done it, but then I read this article. I thought, yeah, that fits in so well. 1 Foucault watch, like a Patek or something super amazing, and 2 Rolex steel professionals, or 2 steel Rolexes just to get life done. And I remember I had a 36mm Explorer 1 14270 and a Datejust 16234 and a Calatrava 5107, 3-piece. Absolutely loved it. Like it's like it was always it's like a car. Now they got 7-speed boxes, 6-speed transmissions, 8-speed automatic. You're never in the right gear. When you got 3, you're always in the range. You're in the right gear. You wear them all. I really enjoyed that time. I really enjoyed that time. I loved it. I really loved it. And it's kind of strange. It is very strange. I had a good time with my watches there. I really did have a good time. And that's why I've got the authority to make this video now. So, to be honest with you, the perfect 5-piece collection for happiness. 5 is basically it. 4 in the box and 1 on the wrist. I think these smaller collections give you more enjoyment. And I've always said, because I've never been one to get huge collections, I've always said you're better off to have more quality pieces than a whole lot of garbage in the box. And I really do think look, I make a living out of YouTube, so I have a few more. But I think for many people, 5 could be the absolutely perfect number. Okay, this is part 1. I'll be uploading part 2 tomorrow. Stay tuned. I'm Archie Luxury.
Hi guys, ArchieLuxury, and who do I recommend in America? In America, who do I recommend for quality pre-owned wristwatches? David SW, David SW, David SW. Go to davidsw.com. He is the best, the greatest pre-owned dealer in all of the United States of America. David SW, David SW, David SW.
Hey guys, Archie Luxury. Who do I recommend for watches in Brisbane and Sydney? Vintage Watch Co. That's correct. Vintage Watch Co. in Brisbane Arcade in Brisbane and the Strand Arcade in Sydney. Vintage Watch Co. Brisbane and Sydney. Ronnie, I've known him since the late 90s. Ronnie is a top bloke. Luke is a great guy. Vintage Watch Co. That is who I recommend in Australia. Check out Vintage Watch Co. and the guys' amazing range of watches. They also do service and repairs. Vintage Watch Co. That is where the pontiff goes. You know, some of my Pateks came from Vintage Watch Co. That's right, guys. Vintage Watch Co.